Time I call the member for Londonderry.
Thank you, Speaker. I too rise to make a contribution to the Government Information Public Access Amendment Sydney Motorway Corporation Bill. And in doing so, I begin by congratulating the member for Strathfield, the Shadow Minister for Roads, on her advocacy on this particular issue. Indeed, it was great to have her recently in my electorate of Londonderry to listen to the concerns of so many residents of Western Sydney who are being kept in the dark, particularly about the toll on the M4. In fact, the Shadow Minister for Roads loves coming to Western Sydney. Shortly, I think we should be making her an honorary resident of Western Sydney pretty shortly at this rate, raising concerns on behalf of our community. Speaker, I think anyone would acknowledge that it should not take an opposition private member's bill to ensure that projects such as this are delivered with full transparency and the accountability that they demand. In fact, the accountability that the public demands. The aim of this bill is just that. It's about removing the veils of mystery that surround the Sydney Motorway Corporation. Of particular interest to me, of course, is the mystery surrounding when the toll on the M4 motorway will begin. That's of particular interest to me, representing an electorate in Western Sydney here in this place. Speaker, plans to reintroduce a toll on the M4 will cost households in Western Sydney thousands of dollars every year. But unfortunately, this government, the Baird government, is hiding this information. And it refuses to tell us, and more importantly, refuses to tell the residents of Western Sydney when this toll is going to begin. What this bill does is it makes it easier for information to be accessed about the entirety of this project, including the Baird government's toll plan, which is being deliberately hidden. This bill aims to hold the government to account, rightly so, to ensure that every dollar that is spent on this project is spent with the intention of providing a fully functional and indeed transparent service to the New South Wales taxpayer. As the Shadow Minister and Member for Strathfield said in her second reading speech on this piece of legislation, the Labor opposition, we're on the side of the communities of interest that have a stake in the WestConnex project, from the daily commuters in Western Sydney, who I represent in this place, who will pay for the project with a toll, we'll get to that later, to the residents and businesses of the inner west and the inner city, but most importantly and crucially to the taxpayers of New South Wales, who will not tolerate projects of this scale being wrapped in secrecy. Speaker, the Sydney Motorway Corporation has been set up in such a way to make it innocuous to the standard checks and balances that are routinely and rightly applied to government. It is a body that was deliberately designed to impede the efforts of this parliament, the media, members of the public, our electorates, to hold the government to account on this project. Deliberately designed to impede that. But if it wasn't enough, now the government's refusing to detail when this new toll on the M4 will be reintroduced. To the Premier and to the Minister, the people of Western Sydney have two very basic questions that they have a right to ask. And I don't exaggerate when I say that as a representative of the community in this place, these questions are literally raised with me on a daily basis. When and how long? When are you going to charge people to drive on a road that's currently free, and how long do you intend to this toll to really hang around? Speaker, we know that this plainly contradicts what former Premier O'Farrell said about tolls on the M4, that there would be no new tolls on existing roads. It's probably why the government has such a glass jaw on this issue, I think. Based on what we know, motorists will be using the M4, who will use the M4 will have to pay up to $4.21 each way to drive on the M4 between Parramatta and Homebush. That's an existing road, a member for Drummoyne, and you know that. That equates to $42 a week, and wait for it, $2,189.20 a year.
How much time do they
A year for motorists travelling to and from work every day. That's 165,000 people that use this motorway every single day. But what the government won't tell us is when this toll will start to hit Western Sydney families and how long it will operate for. Speaker, as the member for Strathfield said, WestConnex is the largest infrastructure project in Australian history, and it's being built by a government with the worst record on accountability and transparency. Speaker, the motorists of Western Sydney. Speaker, you are showing your colours. The government is showing their colours today. Speaker, the motorists of Western Sydney who will be slugged toll after toll after toll just to use the road have a right to know. The only people that don't think they have a right to know are the government. I have to say, Speaker, that it must be noted that we've heard nothing from some of my colleagues on this issue, particularly the member for Penrith, the member for Mulgoa, and I really hope that they'll be going straight to the Premier, the Minister, and asking when their own constituents will start to pay the toll on the M4. There's many of them, as the member for Prospect just noted. Members of the opposition representing Western Sydney communities, including myself, are being inundated. Members of the opposition are being inundated with responses to petitions which we will be presenting to this chamber. My electorate officers, Speaker, simply cannot enter these petitions quickly enough. Everywhere I go in my community, there are lots of angry people. There are lots of angry people who need to travel on this road to get to work, to pay their mortgage, and then they just want to get home to their families. And on behalf of our community, the government is very sensitive on this today. Very sensitive. On behalf of our community, I have to warn the government, as a representative of that community, I have to warn the government that they ignore us at their peril. Speaker, the government needs to do one thing and stop the secrecy and, for once, start being honest with the people of Western Sydney.